Hello lovely souls, welcome back to another video. I hope we're all well. I am so blown away by the YouTube community. I honestly have no words for how grateful I am. I hit 1,000 subscribers, which I know for a lot of people is still a very small amount. But you guys are just so committed. You ask amazing in-depth questions. You're very curious, but you're also just very loving. It just makes me so happy. It can be difficult to share more openly and to share your practice and share the ins and outs of your day when you might not have the biggest platforms elsewhere to back you up going into a new platform. And I never wanted that to put me off, and I'm glad I didn't, because I actually feel like this space, the YouTube community, the YouTube space, might just be the place that I was supposed to post all along. And I hope that is a reminder to anybody to just do the thing. Don't hold yourself back because of numbers elsewhere or people's opinions or doing something that might just look out of the norm for most. Just do the thing. If you want to do the thing, just do the thing. Anyway, all that being said, I am so grateful for you joining me here and continuing to join me here and subscribing. But let me rewind a little bit. If you're new here, I'm Chiara. I'm a freelance illustrator and artist capturing the people, places and stories of our planet. And if you're not new here, mwah, mwah, mwah. As always, very grateful. After the last video, I was both shocked and appreciative of how many questions I received. However, I thought a nice way to answer your questions without me just sitting bombarding you with words would be to take you on a couple of weeks in the life, and every now and then we'll dip into your questions whilst I'm like actually working, because at the end of the day I just want it to be useful to you guys. In this video there's a painting process because you lot seem to be very interested in that. It's always a nice motive as well for me to keep painting. There's unboxing new stock, navigating suppliers and stock levels and shop listings, and all the in-betweens that it takes to run a creative business, I want to share with you. Let's just get going, shall we? Don't forget to do all those YouTubey things like subscribe, comment, notification bell, you know the drill. Enjoy! And that is why we weight train. When you run your own business, you do it all. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to unbox everything together. I've done new t-shirts and new shopper bags. Well, actually these designs came from my previous calendar design, and I really just wanted to utilize that work a bit more. I'm trying to get a bit better at stretching my work out further, because I have this thing in my head that I constantly need to be making new work, and that's honestly exhausting. Let me re-angle you. Cute! I think they're adorable. It says, take notice in what others overlook And it's something I sort of try to live by in life, of paying attention to like the small details that we often miss because we live in such a fast-paced world. I thought that was a nice reminder to have on a shopper bag. There's just a little lady amongst many, many, many daisies, and she spotted the one only little snail. It fits its purpose of being a large shopper bag, heavyweight, can fit many things in it. So that's box number 1. They are a limited stock. I try to make everything limited so that whoever gets it sort of feels special, and I never do reprints of merchandise. I like to constantly change the design every year. Like once they're sold out, that's it, done, dusted. Whoever got them has like that one. I've made labels for my t-shirts, but I need to make labels for the tote bags and take photos and all the rest of the shenanigans that go on behind the scenes, like uploading listings and things. It's like a never-ending list with stuff. There's always something to be done. However, I'm just trying to take it a little bit slower, or as my nonna says to me, piano piano, which is basically slowly slowly, which I love. So piano piano. I don't really have a system to this. I thought like I would film it aesthetically, but I realised this is probably the most unattractive angle. Oh my gosh, wow, they printed it massive. Love, love. I don't know if you can see that, but it's cute. As I was going back through your questions, a lot of them were painting related, so I tried to pick ones that stuck out to me. One was, what did I find most daunting when I started using gouache? And the other being, how do I not get overwhelmed when adding backgrounds? To be completely honest, it goes back to my previous video where I said that you have to trust the process. I never ever used to draw backgrounds, and actually when I did draw backgrounds I would do it separately to my characters and then I'd piece everything together in Photoshop. However, when I got into selling paintings, then I really needed to learn how to implement both foreground and background. It was overwhelming, I'll be honest, because it took a lot of practice to get to this stage. There are a few tips I can give you, minus practice, because practice is the main thing. Tip number 1, do not overcomplicate perspective. Trust me when I say you don't want to create really complicated angles for yourself when it's not necessary. If your work is extremely stylized, then perspective doesn't really come into play, whereas mine's is still leaning towards somewhat realistic, and therefore if the perspective is completely off, you can tell. So simplify perspective is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to plan your background as much as you plan your foreground, and at the same time don't let that hold you back from going with the flow. I know that sounds so wishy-washy, but trust me, when you start to lay down paint, often the paint and the material will direct you. This piece in particular, I planned it as much as I possibly could.
and then I actually just had to let the paint allow me to flow around the page. When you have a plan and like a structure in your head, it allows you to navigate your page a bit easier because you know what's going to be filling the space. However, you're not so restricted by the plan that you're not allowing the material just to speak to you. It's very much a feel and navigate kind of job. I know for a lot of people it's different, but for me and the materials that I use, that's how I work. Tip number 3 is something that has been so valuable to me, and that is to not view the background and the foreground as separate components, and instead try to envisage your whole painting as one thing. And when you do this, it means that you aren't creating these obvious layers, and that actually the whole piece blends together as one. Again, this is subjective because it depends what you're wanting to depict. I really do feel if you just go with the flow and trust your instinct, that by the end of the painting it will piece together. The question around how did I get used to using gouache and how do I not find it daunting anymore, again, it sounds a little bit like a cop-out. It just takes practice. I can't tell you enough. With any material, you just have to get comfortable using it. And whether you want to hear it or not, that means that you have to make crappy, ugly work to begin with. And I have many piles of crappy, ugly work. It is a constant evolution and you find new ways. You have to get uncomfortable to then get comfortable. Everything new just takes time. So stick with it, and as always, trust your process and trust your pace.
I'm having one of those days where I really just do not feel motivated whatsoever. I have had so many days like this in the past that have sent me on such a downward spiral. It has forced me to implement little methods and practices that help pull me back out of it. And I thought I would just share that with you because I actually got a question on my last video along the lines of the lack of motivation on certain days. I have to consistently remind myself that we are only human, that so many people go to their day-to-day jobs and they don't always feel motivated. And just because I love what I do doesn't mean that every day I'm going to be super excited and joyful to do it. I'm grateful. I will never not love what I do. It never feels like a chore. However, some days I just really lack motivation, or I get a bit overwhelmed at the things I want to achieve, but my brain is blocking me on that day. I've come up with 3 different methods that help me. One of them is focusing on one thing, purely one thing, one task, and that is it. The other method or practice, if you will, is itty bitty tasks. So I don't know about you, but I find that like my desk and my brain get cluttered very quickly and very easily with all the little jobs that just build up over time because they're maybe not a priority, they maybe lack a little bit of importance, but at the end of the day they need done. I like to then put all of those itty bitty annoying tasks that really only take like 5 minutes sometimes and accumulate them into one day, tick it all off, so then I feel like, okay, I'm not even gonna have to think about that in days to come because it's done. Then you feel like, okay, I've been somewhat productive. I might not felt motivated, but at least those things are, checked off. And the last one is choosing something I want to do as opposed to something I need to do. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it is forcing yourself to do the tasks that aren't enjoyable when you're already feeling meh is just a recipe for resentment, and you don't want to resent doing the job that you love. Those are my little tips for that. Anyway, the real reason that I brought you to this space is because I'm supposed to be shooting content for my t-shirts. My boyfriend and I the other day set out to a very pretty location, very hilly, beautiful environment, but it was also next to water. And I was like, this is great because the t-shirt It says dive a little deeper. If you know me or know my content by now, I really do like to dive deep into topics. I'm not a very surface level person. I really like deep, meaningful conversations, which is kind of the meaning behind this t-shirt, but then also it was just really fun. People can interpret it in any which way they want to. The idea was to shoot content that day and I was absolutely frozen to the bone. It was so windy, the t-shirt was like, and I'll be honest, I was getting grumpy. When I'm cold, I'm not the best human to be around. I was not enjoying myself. I was like, I'm calling it a day, this is not happening. So now I need to kind of re-navigate. I only do merch once in a blue moon and they're always limited. So I just like to be proud of what I put out, from content to product. Shall I put one on so you can see? Bear with. This is the tee. The blue is popping. I'm not normally a blue gal, but I've noticed that this blue just looks so good on off-white and clothing and interiors, and I'm very into it right now. It's on this organic cotton. I always try to source sustainable fabrics and inks so that we're, you know, doing our bit for the planet. We love that. This size right now that I've got on, I think is a medium. I prefer things like kind of like oversized. If you do get a tee, they are slightly oversized already, so bear that in mind. That's why this is pretty big. I think if I was going to keep one for myself, I might actually keep a small because this is pretty gapey. I need to shoot content, I can't be bothered. Also, my little tote bags, which I have managed to do some flat lay shots, but I feel like I need some shots of it on. This video I knew was going to be all over the place, so enjoy. Pop your questions below if you do have any questions about how I source things, how I design things. I'm used to it now, but the first time I did it, I got so overwhelmed with, do they need a vector graphic? How do I pick a Pantone? And all that malarkey. On to whatever's next. Yeah, probably editing photos. I think that's my one task. I'll catch you on the flip side, right?